Hey, welcome to the second course video for the song Vore from Sleep Token and their album Take Me Back to Eden. I'm musically malnourished, and you're on my journey to go deep and wide in discovering new music and artists. In these videos, we do a deep dive into the lyrics and meaning behind the music. So let's get in, take a look at Vore. All right, Vore, probably one of the most intense songs on the album. And definitely I think it's a screaming song pretty much the whole way through. Obviously, we get moments of screaming in other songs, but this one just has another level of intensity. Okay, there's some information here about maybe some fans getting leaked or previews of the track early, but we'll really just go down here to this. We've looked at this a few times throughout Sleep Token's music. Because this idea of Vore or vorophilia has come up before. Obviously not as a song title, but this is just a little refresher. The title of Vore comes from internet slang for vorophilia, a sexual fetish involving the consumption, either whole or in piecemeal, of one person by another. I don't understand. I cannot relate. And I have refrained from going down any rabbit holes further than just understanding what it is on a surface level. I can't remember. I may have at some point throughout this journey, tried to look at some art, older art. Honestly, all it reminds me of is Attack on Titan. If you've ever seen Attack on Titan, not much of a spoiler. There's a lot of consumption of humans, either in part or in whole, in that show by Titans. And then it made me think, I'm like, okay, maybe Attack on Titan is literally just vorophilia. There's some person with vorophilia that was like, I got a good idea for a show. While gruesome on its face, the majority of Vore content is what's called endosomatic, wherein the prey is alive and safe inside the predator. Sleep Token utilized the namesake as a metaphor, as many Vore artists and authors do, for a perverse but uniquely intimate affection. All right, when it comes to this song, I think the kind of overall interpretation that I draw from it is this desire to be so connected to a person, so one with a person. And if we take it on its most innocent end, it's like, have you ever hugged a person and you're just like, this isn't enough? Like, I could just hug you and squeeze you. It's kind of like when you've got a little baby and you're just like, oh, I just could eat you up. Obviously not taken literally, but it's so like, you almost want to be fused with this person. And this outward hug just doesn't feel like enough. And you're like, I don't know how could I express my love and desire to be close to you? And so hopefully you've had that feeling in your life, not from a weird sense, don't strangle anybody, okay? But just this, I don't know, desire to be close. And it's almost like this physical body isn't allowing what my soul desires. Excuse me. So I think that on its most innocent end, and then from the maybe not so innocent, yet not so, if you go way off to this end, that's where you get into the literal consumption and kind of the weird realm. But maybe that middle level of just wanting to be such oneness with a person. There are a few lines in here that I still struggle to kind of reconcile with that idea, specifically in the idea of, will we remain stuck in the throat of gods? And will the pain stop if we go deeper? So I might need your help on that a little bit, but let's just get in and look at it for a second. You have become the voice in my head. Only recourse we're left after death. And this is, I don't know, I guess for me, and the lore stuff, the lore for Vore, the Vore lore, is always welcome here on the page. As if you've been watching for any length of time, I don't necessarily lean into the lore quite as much. Now, when it came to 21 Pilots, I did, because it was a very central part of a lot of their music, especially kind of starting in Blurry Face album, but Trench, Scaled and Icy, and Clancy and Breach, like those actually had music videos that supported the lore. There was a lot of writing, literally like talking about a different place. Welcome to Trench. Trench was a continent. It talked about Dima, which is a city. It talked about bishops who rule that city. It talked about banditos, who are kind of the rebels. Clancy, this central figure who becomes awake to the corruption of Dima and wants to escape. Talked about the torchbearer. And so you get literally from the band themselves, which I think the fan base also helped shape some of those stories as they went along. But it's all this picture for kind of this spiritual cycle that we go through. And so I understand from Sleep Token, one of the main times, if only times that I'm aware of, that Vessel even spoke about this deity Sleep was that Sleep had basically commissioned him to write songs. And so it's my understanding that most of the lore, which I'm sure Sleep Token is totally fine with because that's the point, they want to kind of let people run with it, is built by the community. And anyway, so all of that I don't have any problem with. I just don't typically lean into it as much, but you're welcome to drop those things in the comments as well. That conversation's always welcome. And so for me, though, this first line, you've become the voice in my head, only recourse we're left after death. And let's look at, I guess, defining recourse. I mean, recourse is just like a response, right? Like an action. A source of help in a difficult situation. The use of someone or something as a source of help in a difficult situation. Legal right to demand compensation or payment. So I guess with that in mind is this idea of only recourse were left after death. Your viscera welcome me in. Is this... It could be this death of their relationship, but that wouldn't fit with your viscera welcome me in. And viscera just has to do with like the internals. Like here, we'll define that as well. Viscera is the internal organs in the main cavities of the body, especially those in the abdomen, e.g. the intestines. And so if you do take this from a lore perspective, you could look at it possibly in the idea of being consumed by this deity Sleep. And so, I don't know, maybe the recourse were left after death, like the after death being, I don't know, this giving up to one another. And you're the voice in my head. You're all that I think about, all that because again, the song really has to do with this being consumed. So you've become the voice in my head. Only recourse were left after death. Your viscera welcome me in. And I'm assuming viscera welcoming him in is the recourse left after death. And I guess what I'm trying to say, sorry, I'm kind of fumbling my words a little bit, is if you are taking this in the way of a person, it's kind of like death to self, consumption by a person. Like you're just the voice in my head. I'm totally surrendered and in a sense dead to be consumed by you. So your viscera welcome me in. Welcome me in. My life is torn. My bones, they bleed. My metaphors fall short in the end. And I think that that's the idea that I'm talking about. Like when you're hugging somebody and you're just like, I don't even have the words to express how much I love you. And so even going with that idea of recourse left after death, life torn, bones they bleed, continue to me to talk about this like him being completely surrendered, him being dead, given over to this person. And your flesh and bones welcome me. And so it's almost like saying these lines again. Are you in pain like I am? And with that, it's like, if you're consumed by this other person, he seems to be talking about like a pain in that. And is that a good pain? Is it a bad pain? Is it, I'm in this pain that is because even if you take the nature of the song and the intensity and kind of the violence in which it's being delivered, it can follow the ideas that we've seen throughout all of the albums. This giving over to this person, but knowing that maybe there's something not returned, or that you feel so deep, but yet they don't feel quite as deep about it. And this is the part that kind of continues to confuse me a little bit. Will we remain stuck in the throat of gods? Will the pain stop if we go deeper? So there's obviously a separation here of we and these gods. And will the pain stop if we go deeper? Which I think is what makes me think that it is more of a human relation. So I don't know, guys. I'm getting stumped a lot in this album. I mean, we can see here what some of these say. I do think a lot of these lean into lore more so. I read this as a little literal addressment of the gods, sleep. By separating we from the gods, the frequently referenced you becomes a separate character whom Vessel shares an intimate relationship with. Being stuck in the throat of gods can act twofold. One is they're being consumed by the gods, Vore, but also two, due to Vessel's worship, he acts as a mouthpiece and actually comes out of the throat of his god as well. Between these opposing forces into and out of the throat, it could be said that they are stuck. Vessel, however, seems preoccupied more with the idea of being consumed by the pursuance of his god down the throat. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe like the wondering, are we both in pain in this idea like we together are stuck in the throat of gods, and if we go deeper together into this relationship, like will we find some relief? Will we find some peace together? So let's get swallowed whole. I want to go where nobody else will ever go. And so to me, this does speak to this depth. And obviously you can take these things from like a sexual side if you want. I think there's more being said here than that. But I think it is that idea of having a relationship with somebody, closeness with somebody that is different than what anybody else experiences. You know, I share closeness with my wife that nobody else will share. Walls of flesh, so warm again. So this is the idea of having been consumed. We step into my suffering. My only need, welcome me in, welcome me in. And so it may be that love that is so strong that there is an amount of suffering to it. And yet he's still saying like, welcome me in further. Let me in, let me be part of you. There's always something in the way. I want to have you to myself for once. Follow me between the jaws of fate. That's what I'm saying about the gods, is maybe this idea of, because this feels like it reinforces the idea of being stuck in the throat of gods, because we're going between the jaws of fate into the throats of gods. And this idea of like, let's be consumed together. But there's always this thing in the way. There's something always blocking. There's something that always stops us. There's something that always brings this to an end. But like, I want to have you to myself. And we even maybe pick up in some other songs that there's another person in the picture, that the person he feels affection for may have affections for another, or maybe when they were not doing so well, they pursued another person. Because there is always this feeling of like he feels a certain way, but maybe it's not fully returned, and yet not always placing him as the good guy. But it does feel like this idea of following between the jaws of fate almost ties this idea of fate to gods. So let's get swallowed whole. I want to go where nobody else will ever go. There's always something in the way. I want to have you to myself for once. Are you in pain like I am? And I think that's what I was trying to say is like, is the pain there this pain of wanting you so much, needing you so much, needing to be consumed by you? Do you feel the same way toward me? Does your heart ache like mine does? So I don't know. Interested to hear your thoughts. Thanks for bearing with me through this album. We don't always get it right, but we always learn something. And here's what my encouragement would be to you today. We've talked about toxic relationships and things like that. I hope that you can find a place where that isn't what your relationships look like. That I think true love between people is sacrificial love. It is not that you're both perfect and you will fail sometimes, the person you love will fail sometimes, but you're worth being loved well. You're worth being treated well with somebody's words and their actions. You're worth, and at the same time that you're giving that back as well, right? And if you're in a relationship that does feel toxic, painful, and like in the ways that just aren't good, they're not healthy, my hope is that you can find your way out of that. Give space and time. Maybe you need to learn yourself a little bit more. Maybe you need a better understanding. Because here's the thing, if you don't have a strong sense of self, then you will try to find that in another person. And sometimes the people that are willing to offer that ultimately aren't good for you. Because I've seen too many times where, maybe a man at first treats you as if you're everything, only to then have you and treat you as if you're nothing. And yet they don't want to let you go because they're possessive. They are, what's the word when you're like kind of all consumed by yourself? I can't think of it right now. But it becomes this like possessive feeling. Of course, I'm possessive of my wife because she's mine. I'm jealous for my wife. I'll protect my wife from anything and anyone. But at the same time, like, I'm not possessive in the sense of like, you're mine. It's like you're mine and I love you and I'm here to support you and encourage you and speak well of you to your face and behind your back. And I lay down my life to serve you every day. And she does the same toward me. And it's a beautiful thing. And so my encouragement, my hope for you is that the relationships you're engaged in, in your heart, this is right. This is healthy. This is good. And ultimately, from my perspective, as a Christian, a lot of people want to harp on these ideas in the scriptures, especially even in the New Testament, that tell wives to submit to their husbands. But I need you to realize, too, there's a very small section about that and a big section about husbands. Love your wives as Christ loved the church. How did Christ love the church? Well, he laid down his life. He gave himself up. He was selfless and serving and kind. And when you operate in that way, and I know this from my wife herself, she finds not that it's always easy, but this joy in submitting. And by submitting, it's not this like, oh, my master. It's just understanding like, okay, my husband takes the place of the man in this house. He leads. We work together. We even this morning, like my wife had said something to the kids and I didn't really back her up on it. And I was like, dang it. And so then when we came together, because every morning, like kids come downstairs, I make breakfast, everybody kind of gets ready and stuff. My wife is usually upstairs helping handling things as they're getting ready. And then before we head out of the house together, we sit down together, we do a little devotion, we pray together. But when we sat down, I said, hey guys, I just want to remind us of this thing that my wife was trying to remind them about, kind of a rule that we had in the house. And I just reinforced her. I backed her up, but it had to take a second for her to be like, babe, like, hey, this is a thing that we have. Like, come on, I need your help. And so that's what I'm saying. It's not this submissive thing that's like, she can never say like, hey, I disagree with that. Or, hey, I don't think this is good. My goodness, I'm telling you, if it were not for my wife and her wisdom and her care, like, our house would not be what it is. And so we make a good team. And so I hope that you understand that. It's just, that's what a healthy relationship looks like. And that's what I desire for every person out there, because I hate seeing people stuck in these vicious cycles. And that you could love someone in an all-consuming nature and that they could return that, but that you both have this healthy sense of who you are separately, so that when you bring your love together, that's when it's really beautiful. Well, let me know your thoughts in the comments on this one. Thanks for hanging out with me. I hope to see you in the next one, because we're eating good. Pun? We're going deep into this song and we're eating good. We just vorophilia this song. Okay, I'm gonna go now. All right, bye.